Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from Colombia, Spanish language English subs, released in the year 2011, directed by Jaime Azario Marquez, and this film is called The Squad. So The Squad is about a group of soldiers. They're venturing up into the secluded mountains. On top of this mountain there is this bunker, and it is believed that something really bad had happened to some soldiers beforehand. And so these soldiers are going up there to find out what's going on, and when they get there they realise that everyone's dead. And so they don't know how the hell this happened, but they're a little bit concerned because whatever happened to them is slowly happening to these guys, because when they see that there is a diary that is left behind, they're indicating that something is inside this bunker, and when this thing is released, then all of a sudden these people start killing each other. And so this is what's happening to this group. It's going to turn into a terrifying psychological battleground, and whether or not these soldiers are going to live to see their families again is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Squad. South American cinema has really gone from strength to strength recently, and The Squad is no different. I think this is just another inclusion of the very impressive films, especially from Colombia. As far as Colombia is concerned, I believe it's one of the most underrated nations in world cinema, is because they have delivered some really good stuff. You've got Satanas, that I reviewed a long time ago, that was about a man who just goes nuts, and he actually a massacre in Bogota that was actually based on a true story, and I thought that was a very devastating look into the mentality of a man that felt ostracized by society. I thought that was just a really good film. You've also got Greetings to the Devil, which was a great movie about the guerrilla warfare between them and the government forces, and how you try to live on from after the devastation of this war, that civil war that gripped Colombia. And you've also got a film called Wake Up and Die that I thought had a very interesting premise. And so there's a lot of Colombian movies that really do grab your attention and indicate that they really know what they're doing, but unfortunately not a lot of people watch their films. And so I believe that's a great shame, because there are more than one impressive movies to come from Colombia. When it comes to South American cinema, you think of Argentina, you think of Brazil, and even Chile to some extent, but you don't really hear about Colombia. And I believe that they are one of the lead runners as far as not only South American cinema but Latin cinema in general. And so that was something that I think needs to be rectified, and I think that if movies like The Squad are going to be continuously made, then it shows you just how good they can be in the horror department as well. So The Squad is definitely a movie about psychology. It's a movie about whether or not you think these people are going insane, or in fact the threat inside the bunker is actually reality. And so that kind of leaves it up to your interpretation. There's enough clues in there to indicate both ways. They are going crazy, or in fact it is actually a threat that's existing inside this bunker. And so it does become a psychological battleground. And although the premise of the film is very reminiscent of movies from South Korea, especially R Point and another movie called The Guard Post, it's still a movie that does what it does very well. Although it's not the most creative film, it's still a very well made movie. The production levels are fantastic. I thought the atmosphere was absolutely phenomenal. It captured just there's a lot of fog that's used, and so when the fog actually engulfs the screen, you feel as though you're in a dreamlike sequence, and this dreamlike sequence is a terrifying nightmare. And what these soldiers are going through, I thought, were actually very realistic and authentic reactions to what was going on, and that was down to the fact that the acting in this movie was absolutely superb. And that's something that surprised me the most, is that in these sorts of movies you don't expect great acting. When it comes to Latin American cinema, you get the great acting from films that have been nominated for Oscars as far as foreign film is concerned, but you don't really get them in these types of movies. But The Squad really has great acting, and the characters separate themselves from each other, and I could really relate to what they were going through, and I really hope that they could actually pull through and get to back home to their families, but you're never quite sure if that's going to happen. So the family dynamic within these soldiers was present, and so when the bad things are happening, all of a sudden bad things are happening to people that you care about, instead of just cannon fodder that you want to see die horribly. And so the overall horror aspect of this film, a lot of people say it's not a horror film, it's a thriller. I can't disagree with that enough. I actually think this is a very horrifying film, but it's a movie about mentalities. It's a movie about being stuck in a very claustrophobic atmosphere, and that atmosphere that's slowly engulfing the characters and also the viewer, and just sucking all the air out of them until they can't breathe anymore. So it's a very uneasy feeling that the film has, and the attention to detail is something that you get from Roman Polanski. It's something you get from Alfred Hitchcock. This is the type of stuff that is very hard to create, and I believe that Jaime Asario Marquez, he does a great job at emulating the greatness of Roman Polanski or an Alfred Hitchcock. And so there are some nasty scenes, but the movie's not relying on the nastiness. The movie's relying on the anticipation that something really bad is cooking. And it does go down at a very brisk and very fluent pace. And the movie doesn't get bogged down with anything that it doesn't need. This is a movie that makes you think. It's a movie that does give you enough clues as to what these soldiers had been through beforehand. So maybe what's happening to them is a result of their past. Or you could just say that this is a straight out supernatural horror film. But so there are so many avenues that you can take that make it just more than just a simplistic sort of horror movie that you can eat a bit of popcorn with. This is a movie that's going to make you think. And so the production was absolutely phenomenal. I thought the soundtrack was phenomenal. The acting was absolutely brilliant. The acting makes the film what it is because it really relies on that family dynamic, and the family dynamic that has been slowly ripped apart due to the paranoia that the film has. So it's a very psychologically damaging movie. It's a very, very uneasy feeling. I thought it was a scary movie, and just the dark colouring to the movie really helps it as well. There's a lot of mystery, and so that mystery just really contributes something that is just a slow tension building exercise. And as I said, it's an exercise of Alfred Hitchcock, it's an exercise of Roman Polanski, and it's an exercise that is a forgotten art these days. It's all about excessive gore, nudity, sex scenes, cheap tricks, jump scares. It's not about building that solid foundation that is a genuine horror experience, and I believe that the squad really understands what it is to be a genuine horror film. And if fans of films that have become, the films of the 60s and 70s where it was all about that tension building, then I really recommend this movie because I think a lot of people are going to really like what it has to offer. If I have negatives of the film, I thought, as I said, that it could have been a little bit more creative. I thought that this is a movie that I'd seen before, is that, some South Korean films have actually done it. But just the fact that it was done so well, I can forgive that minor sort of negative that the film has. So it's got a great ending that really made me think and actually made me jump. And so if you are a horror fan and if you want psychological torment, then The Squad is definitely for you. There is some nastiness in the movie, and that was really complemented by the stuff that you can't see. As I said, it's the hard, sort of most difficult sense of horror that is emulated in this film to a level where I thought it was very, very high. And for that, I think a lot of enjoyment is going to be had from The Squad. So overall, this is yet another fantastic Colombian movie. I'm going to give it 4 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.